Hello and welcome back to the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Ferguson, writer for UCLA on SI. Today we're going to be taking a look at UCLA's matchup against USC. Both teams right now are 18-9, trying to make that final push before the tournament starts. It's late February. Wins like these are going to matter no matter what. So this podcast is pretty much just going to be going over, players UCLA needs to watch out for, players who I want to see step up on UCLA's side, game prediction at the end, and overall context for both teams entering this matchup. But before we get started, I want to thank everyone right now who's watching Apple Music, Spotify, or even YouTube. It all means a lot to me, and I cannot thank you enough. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So UCLA, obviously coming off of a massive win against Illinois. It was a hard fought, UCLA should not have won that game. They were down 23 points and they had the fight to come back. Obviously they were in Poly, they played better in Poly, but still that is a win that is going to feel good for the Bruins to end the season. The Michigan State loss was probably the lowest of the lows. There was off the court drama. The Bruins looked terrible, but they were able to turn things around against Illinois. It took them a second, as we saw, 23-point deficit at one point. I think it was 10-33 at like 6 minutes in the first half. The Bruins were playing terrible, but something clicked at halftime and to end that first half, and the UCLA Bruins were able to pull off the win. Same can't really be said on the other side of the city against for USC. They're coming off of a 3-game losing streak against Ohio, Illinois, and then I believe Oregon. Yeah, Oregon, obviously not the best team, so we know USC is going to be looking for a bounce back game against the Bruins, but unlucky for them, UCLA has all the momentum they need to win this game in a very convincing fashion. The books have UCLA as a 6.5-point favorite. I feel like that might be a little low considering what UCLA has been able to do. Again, I feel like those Michigan and Michigan State games were kind of one-offers, East Coast, things like that. It's going to be hard to be your best version of a basketball team in places like that. But USC, they've been kind of sneaky this season. Like I said, 18-9, they're right there with USC. They have a 7-9 Big Ten record, so still they are a decent team. UCLA cannot play to the level of them. I know the Bruins love to do that. We've seen that pretty much all season except for a few games, here and there. But overall, the Bruins should be able to take this game in a very decisive fashion. Again, not many things could go wrong for the Bruins in this one, especially if you're coming off a win like that against Illinois in the game prior. UCLA, according to ESPN Analytics, has a 77.8% chance of winning, and those are really good odds. 3 times out of 4, UCLA is going to win this game. But the thing that's troubling is that, that 25% chance, it could happen. You never know. But I think that really does start with, Jacob Coffey really getting hot in the paint. He's averaging 7.1 rebounds. UCLA's leading rebounder, Tyler Bilodeau, is averaging 5.6. If the Bruins are unable to, close that differential, if Bilodeau's not able to, out-rebound or even tie Coffey, I think there might be an issue for the Bruins. Rebounds matter. They got away with it against Illinois. But still, the Bruins are capable of having a good rebounding game, but still, you really got to watch out for, those glass specialists such as Kofi. Baker Mazzaria is averaging 18.4 points, 2.9 assists while shooting 44.1% from the field and 90% from the line. It's clear that he wants to get physical in the paint, draw those fouls, and that is something UCLA struggled against versus Illinois. We saw so many players, in foul trouble. Sky Clark, Daly, both of them fouled out very, kind of later in that second half. And that really hurt the Bruins. When I saw that, I thought overtime was wraps. But, the Bruins were able to still pull it off. But still, you don't want to get into a situation like that, especially if you're feeding, their best scorer fouls. He's going to keep attacking the rim because he is successful. A 90% free throw shooter, that is a person who's going to give you a lot of trouble if you let him. And this means a lot of things. Tyler Bilodeau's obviously got to be better. It's going to be a similar matchup, I believe, to, Keaton Wagler, where we're going to see, some of our forwards kind of drop onto him. He's 6'7", so he's a big guard for his position. Obviously, there is a mismatch there when you look at UCLA's guards. Trent Perry, I think he's 6'4". Donovan Dent, like 6'2", something. He's around there. But still, they don't really have that height advantage in the paint overall. And that is something that could give UCLA a lot of trouble. But overall, I feel like if they can keep rebounding close, limit scoring from Baker Marzara. Sorry, I'm terrible at names, but still, it's going to be a close game if those things don't go UCLA's way. We've seen how individuals take over against UCLA. There's just so many examples of where a player really goes crazy, and the Bruins cannot let this happen. I thought UCLA's ability to, limit Wagler in the Illinois game was something that they need to look to do, against USC. But over on UCLA sides, here are 3 players who I really want to see step up and, make a difference. Obviously, number 1, Donovan Dent. He is the heart and soul of this team against Illinois. I believe he had 13 points and 15 assists. I think that was a career high in assists. Again, just an amazing game from Dent when, UCLA's players are able to capitalize on the shots that Dent sets them up for. Things go well for UCLA offensively as a whole. Dent is a great passer, great court general, whatever you want to call it. He will find the open guy 9 times out of 10. I think in those 15 assists, he didn't have a single turnover, which again, that speaks numbers to how good Dent can be if he wants to be. If Dent can, continue to do that, be that facilitating threat who is going to, leave people open while being able to drive to the rim as hard as he can. He's going to draw people, and it's going to set up a lot of shots for the Bruins. And it's just a matter if UCLA is able to take advantage of that, which I think there's a good chance they will. They found their strides in the Illinois game. I don't think USC is going to be that much of a challenge defensively for the Bruins. But yeah, like I said, taking advantage. But the people who will take advantage of that, I want to see Trent Perry. That's the next player I want to see. Obviously, there's a lot of competition between him and Sky Clark. It seems like Mick Cronin is kind of going for that small ball look, with Dent, Perry, Clark, and then you have Bilodeau and Daly at the 4 and 5. That has worked well for UCLA. I thought, it was bold at first. I thought there was a little bit of separation. It looked like Illinois was taking advantage of those matchups. So once they kind of found their groove, shots started to fall, and that's the exact kind of play Mick Cronin wants. A team who can score fast, efficiency, who can beat you, outside the arc, in the paint. That's the kind of lineup UCLA has when they run that. But if, that's going to give more opportunities for Trent Perry to kind of, get those shots. Again, it's going to be very hard because, like I said, those names I just named in that lineup, they're going to be very, they're going to want to shoot. They're going to want to score. They're going to want to do things that they wouldn't. But Trent Perry's task this game is to make an impact, not be ignored. He needs to be that player that UCLA can rely on to hit the big shots. If this game gets close, I don't really think it will. But either way, Perry cannot be a ghost in this one. If he does, then, that puts a lot of workload on Sky Clark. And I know as good as he is, I want to see, him get a little bit less action compared to Perry. Because, again, both of them are very neck and neck. And if you could spread the ball evenly between the two, good good things are going to happen. Excuse me. But yeah, like I said, if, Dent can hit Perry a lot and he takes advantage of that, I believe he will. Perry is a damn good scorer. But the final player, I think I want to see Eric Daly Jr. kind of have a repeat game of that. The 2 games leading up to that, he was averaging just 3 points per game, 2 rebounds. He was not really playing, to the level of basketball that we're used to. He turned the script around against Illinois. He had 20 points. He looked phenomenal. He was hitting shots at a very high percentage. And that's the exact thing you want to see from Eric Daly Jr. He's a great player. Again, if he can get in that space again, really clean up in the glass, I think that'll be good. Like I said, if he takes advantage of everything Dent gives him, I think the Bruins will be in a very good position. And that's really the only thing you can ask for from Daly. I want to see him rebound well. Like I said, Coffey, he is going to be hard in the paint, and that is some place where, Daly Jr. will be able to take advantage of. And then kind of a dark horse, that fourth player. But I think the three players I mentioned are going to be the focus of this game. But if Xavier Booker is able to have a similar performance, I know he is very inconsistent. We saw against Rutgers, he dropped 24 points, and he hasn't really had that impact until the Illinois game. If he's able to get hot, the Bruins should be able to win in a very, a larger fashion than I predict them to. Like I said, when he's on, it just feels a lot better if you're the Bruins. There's not a lot of pressure, on Bilodeau, Perry, Clark, Dent, all those players. There's kind of a burden lifted off your shoulder when Booker starts hitting those shots. And what I liked from Booker in the Illinois game, he was really aggressive, in the paint. We saw a lot more putbacks. There was a number of times where Dent was able to find him down low, and he was able to make an easy bucket. Booker can create that separation in under the basket like he did against Illinois. I think the Bruins will be able to control the floor on all three levels, in the paint, mid-range, and the arc. I think the Bruins have all the tools to make that happen. But again, it's just a matter of execution and things that the Bruins can do. So yeah, those four players, the three I mentioned obviously are going to be the focus. If they're not on, I want to see Booker kind of fill in the void they leave. But still, I think if we're looking stat predictions, when you kind of look at what's going on, USC entering with a 3-game losing streak, the Bruins coming off of a top 10 win. Again, the momentum is on the Bruins side, and that can only be a good thing when you're kind of predicting the score. I think if UCLA is going to win this game, it's going to be by at least 15. And I know the bookies say 6.5, but when you kind of take into account everything UCLA did right in the Illinois game, and then you look at USC's track record, I think it makes sense. So I'm going to go 85 to 70, maybe even 75 to 60. I think either of those options are good. If UCLA struggles on defense, the first option's more likely, that 85 to 70 mark. But again, I think UCLA knows what they need to do. They know what they're bad at. They know what they're good at. And that'll help UCLA kind of really, set the tone to finish off the season. And again, this game is really make or break for the Bruins. I know it's kind of a breath of fresh air not having to play, the best teams in the Big Ten, but still they cannot let that blind them. They still need to play a full game no matter what. We know how half-sided UCLA is. They'll do good in the first half or the second half, but they can't seem to get it consistently. But yeah, 40 minutes of hard basketball, that's what UCLA really needs. If they win this game by a wide margin, I think that is going to turn a lot of heads when people start to evaluate UCLA, come Selection Sunday. And like I said, they're already a fringe team, and they're going to need every win they can get to really, push the committee to give them a good seed. But that's all I have today, everyone. Again, I'm your host, Andrew Ferguson. Make sure you check out UCLA on SI for any, articles coming out. I post 5 a day, so make sure you give them a read. Look through them. There's a lot of good stuff there. I'll also put more predictions for the game. I didn't do too bad in the Illinois game. Obviously, I was kind of predicting the ceiling, and UCLA had to play their ceiling if they were going to win that game. But still, they're good reads. I recommend you watch them to stay more informed on UCLA basketball and football. Obviously, it is the off season, but we will have more content coming out soon. But again, that's all I have today. And as always, fours up and have a good day.